y'all, Stacy here. Thank you so much for joining me for my warmer watch of the Boo Crew Scentsy Warmer. This is going to be the warmer of the month in September, and I'm also going to share my thoughts on Spooky But Sweet as we're going through the process. As a quick reminder though, this is not scientific and it's not even a guarantee that this is the way this warmer should work. This is just what I do every time I get a new warmer so that I can test out my warmer to make sure I'm completely satisfied with the one that I have within the 30-day window of the satisfaction guarantee of Scentsy. Now, the first thing that I like to do is just take a really close look at the outside, making sure that if there's a glaze, there are no glazing imperfections, there aren't any chips or scratches or just anything misdone, and I don't see even a bit of that. It looks absolutely beautiful to me. Now, per my box, this is a 17-watt hot plate warmer. I am excited that it is a removable dish hot plate warmer, and the dish just sits right here. I'm just gonna make sure that it fits, and it does. It fits nicely, and it seems really stable in there, which I like. The other thing that I love about this dish, I'm not sure if it's going to show on camera, but it's glazed on the interior, which makes cleaning and removing wax so much easier. The outside for character is this beautiful, like bone unglazed finish, and the inside of the dish itself is glazed, and that's a great combination to me because I do think the unglazed finish of this warmer really is adding to the character of it. However, that in combination with these adorable little folds is going to make me very cautious about having hot wax around the unglazed parts. Now it has that great little notch out to help it sit level, and then it's a single toggle switch that turns on the warmer and these LED lights. Oh my goodness, it's so cute. This is one of those warmers that the details shine when it's off or when it's on, which I love that. But man, it's so adorable. The illumination inside is awesome. I love that. Now, this is 17 watts, but that 17 watts is doing two things. It's managing the LED and it's managing the hot plate. And it is an LED light. So super grateful for the Scentsy electrical lifetime warranty. And that does make me more confident with things that are like LED and elements. My preference tends to be light bulb warmers, but some of these element warmers are just really shining, for lack of a better word. So let's take a look really quickly at what I'm going to be popping in here. This is the scent of the month, and it has gotten so much positive buzz. I've already melted some. It's spooky but sweet. I'll chat more about that in the voiceover when we're watching the wax melt. I am going to pop a timer up here because the wax melting will be happening on a time lapse, but that will give you a real-time counter for how long it actually takes the cube to melt in my warmer, and then we'll do a temperature check to see how hot it gets without having to spend, oh, I don't know, 30 minutes watching wax. Now, here you can see I have placed the timer and it's going at a regular clip, and in a few moments I am going to turn on the time lapse, so you'll see that timer start to pick up speed. There it goes. And now we are into the period of time when I was wandering around whilst my phone was watching this wax melt. um, so part of the reason that I do this, I don't really think it's super important how long it takes a single cube of wax to melt. I do though like to get an idea of how a warmer is going to perform. And I think this is a great way to just get a sense of just really quickly what throw is like, as well as make sure all of the electrical components that I can't see and I can't test are working in a way that will make me happy. For me personally, I am pleased, and I have had warmers that have been like a temperature of 130 degrees and thrown really, really well for me. But my preference is if it can get over like 140 degrees and maintain below over 140 and below 190. That's nothing scientific. It's just my preference. I don't love hot plate warmers because part of what I like about melting wax as opposed to burning candles is not having to have those intense temperatures. So I like stability in my warmers, and that's one of the reasons why I love Scentsy warmers so much. Now let's jump into my review of Spooky But Sweet really quickly. I have warmed this in multiple locations across multiple days, and I have varied opinions on it, and I'm excited to share them with you just to get into the scent notes, what Scentsy says this bar's notes are is a pinch of nutmeg mingles with shadowy swirls of smoked maple syrup and caramelized vanilla sugar. I absolutely pick up the nutmeg note, and I think that's beautiful. I get the caramelized vanilla sugar, and I definitely get a smoky note. I do not particularly discern a maple syrup note, so it's definitely not a maple forward bar to me. I've heard a lot of comparisons comparing this to Gimme Candy and Scary Good, and I think that's a very appropriate analysis. It seems very much like a direct mix of Scary Good and Gimme Candy to me on cold. Um, and I say on cold because on warm, I got different performance from this bar, and it's not anything that I have heard kind of in the review community. And this bar did perform very differently from my first melting to my second melting. Now, my first melting I did in my closed concept living room. It's a larger closed concept living room, and I used 4 cubes of wax, and I immediately got a beautiful pumpkin pie scent. The throw was great. I would say it was a medium to strong performer, but somewhere around the 30-minute mark, it gave me a jump scare, living up to the spooky in Spooky But Sweet. And that is because it started to smell like I had a pumpkin pie in the oven that I had forgotten, and the top of that pumpkin pie was now near to burnt, if not burnt. Like you have bruleed a pumpkin pie, and that is not it. When my husband came home, he smelled something different, and I'm going to put a timestamp up here. If you are like influenced by hearing comparisons to things and you don't want to hear something that might be objectionable, go to the timestamp and don't listen to this part. But when my husband came home, he rarely asks me to remove a scent, and he did not like this because to him it smelled exactly like radiator fluid. Now, if you have ever been around old cars or worked on old cars, you know that radiator fluid does have, it's often compared to like a butterscotch type smell, but it's just a very oily sort of butterscotch type smell. And so we removed it that day, and I kind of was anxious about melting this bar again. But I do believe in using the method that Patricia Gates talks about, which is 2 different days, 2 locations. I think there's another two, but that she talks about. But I always try and give, if I don't really stick with just having melted 2 cubes of anything, because it's amazing what different locations and different days and different moods can do. So on my second melting, when I believed that I was primarily going to be alone in the open concept, I popped in 4 cubes into my open concept spread throughout the space. And I was delighted with the fragrance. To me, it still is a pumpkin pie fragrance, and it's a very deep and rich pumpkin pie fragrance that does have a smoky note to it, but it felt to me, at least in my open concept, more intentional, and it was warm and cozy. It did have a really steep performance drop off for me, where right around the 8 or 9 hour mark it really near to disappeared. So this was more of a single day melt for me. And given that result, I decided to do 2 cubes in my closed concept again across 2 warmers to see if that made a change. Unfortunately, it really didn't. So this is just going to be more of an open concept and not something that I would choose to melt in my closed concept. Now it looks to me like that wax has almost completely melted, so any moment now we are going to see me speeding through here, getting the temperature check. It finished melting that cube in just about 24 minutes, just under that, and it looks like the high temperature was 152 and the average was 141. I'm loving this warmer. Having early access to the Scent and Warmer of the Month is maybe one of my favorite things about being a Scentsy consultant. This has been such a fun year. Thank you guys so much for watching with me. If you'd like to browse the brochure, I've put a link to a virtual brochure into the description, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this Scent and Warmer of the Month. Let me know in the comments.